Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 81 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
Oh boy, we got a very special guest for you this evening on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Domangue is back on the pod. How you doing, Mikey Dodo?
Oh, it is so good to be back. Thank you so much for having me back for a second time around.
Oh, yeah, we were just talking about it beforehand, but I think last time we had you on was in October, so almost a whole year has passed since you've been on the podcast. It's very good to have you back.
Yes.
A year on the calendar and about 5,000 years in terms of life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's been about a year if you don't count the first half of this year being about 20 years.
Exactly.
Right. But very, very excited to have you on the show. This week on Super Switch Headz, we're going to be talking all about just what the fuck is going on at Nintendo this year. Nintendo's 2020 has, for lack of a better word, been just weird. It's been weird. And we're going to kind of break down what we think might be going on. I mean, obviously, COVID has been a big issue for the entire gaming industry, but Nintendo has had a different approach to this year than everybody else still, which is not out of the norm for Nintendo. So we'll be kind of breaking that down, doing a lot of speculating. It's going to be a fun episode. I'm excited for that. We've also got tons of news and rumors we're going to be going over, including the Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase, that wonderful event that we all enjoyed very much. Nintendo has some FCC filings. Some 8-bit dough peripherals are coming out, and much, much more. Other than that, how are we doing this week, fellas?
Yeah, no, it's been a good week for me. You know, things over here in New Orleans have been on the upswing as we work back into the normal rhythm of life here in Louisiana.
Yeah, everything all right with you and yours as far as the inclement weather?
My family was unscathed. I'm originally from Lafayette, and Lafayette survived Marco and Laura pretty much unscathed. So all of my family checked in. Everyone's doing fine on that front. All the in-laws are doing okay. So we're all hanging in there right now.
Good to hear. Good to hear. How about you guys? You guys been having a good week as well?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
I've been, I'll talk about this later and what we're playing, but I've been have 9 hours in a Microsoft Flight Simulator crashing. So I'm doing pretty good.
You're fine. Yeah, so you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Doing great.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking, David.
So before we get into the news, do we have any shout outs, Patrick?
Yeah, last week we talked about licensed games, and I think that's a good topic. A lot of people had responses for us. Wayne Rose on Facebook mentioned Lego Island, which is a Lego game I wasn't familiar with. I missed that one. Matt Manchester posted a bunch of box art from games. And just some of them were like Willow, an Indiana Jones game, the X-Men arcade game, and Shadowrun, which we did not mention when we were talking about licensed games, like tabletop RPGs or just board games, which is another whole area of licensing that happens in video
that's
games.
where you could say Cyberpunk 2077 is a
totally
licensed game
in
that regard. Yeah. Also, I am very fucking surprised that we did not bring up Lego games at all.
Yeah, those are big ones right there.
Well, that's also like a whole genre of video game.
Totally. Matt Hobby mentioned the Lord of the Rings PS2 games, and also loved you breaking in from the future, which I also loved, David. That was great. And we're recording this episode a little earlier than we usually do, so hopefully you don't have to break in from the future again.
Yeah, if there's any big dropping news on Tuesday, I'll break in from the future again.
And Matt in the last episode mentioned Supermarket Sweep, and our friend Celeste was also mentioned that she is new to Supermarket Sweep. Where have y'all been? This show is from like the 1980s or something.
Yeah.
And then our friend Emma mentioned The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is another book video game that we were trying to think of video games based on books. I guess it was a text game, and that kind of sparked some discussion about text games like Zork and stuff like that. So a lot of good discussion came out of that one.
if there's any takeaway from this, it's that our Discord is popping. Make sure you join our Discord for lots of discussion, not just about the podcast, but about gaming in general. And we'll talk about it on the pod.
And if you're thirsty to talk about some supermarket sweep, I'm your guy, and so is our Discord.
It's the hams. Go for the hams.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the pro strat?
hams.
Yes, the
Pro strat is hams.
the hams, the diapers, and later episodes they got screens with secret prizes. So
Wow.
hop in that Discord and talk about this. Talk about
I'd be happy
sweep.
to join you.
Yeah.
Beep beep. So I think that does it, and we'll talk about news now. Like David said, there was a Direct Mini Partner Showcase, which is a mouthful. We had our second one of these ever. Happened shadow dropped this time. No notice. This happened on August 26th, out of nowhere at 9 a.m. Central Time. That is, and it happened. It was 10 minutes, or 11, 12 minutes. I didn't feel it. How did y'all think?
No. Yeah, I thought this was true. I thought this was the worst thing that could have happened this past week, basically. After I'm just kidding. A lot of terrible
That's
shit happened.
saying
last
a
week.
lot, given what's going on in the world.
Yeah, this is true.
No, I'm
And
I'm obviously joking. But I think what I will say though, that I think that, and this is something we'll get into in our topic for today, but the expectations were like sky high, blown out of the water. Everybody was expecting the world, especially after the last partner showcase was so terrible. We were like, there's no way that this could get any worse. And it definitely did. But we could get into some more about why that is in some of the games.
Yeah.
That were included.
Maybe, we're like, given our topic, we're going to kind of analyze the many partner showcases, kind of what they are and the broader context. So maybe we can talk about the specifics of this one. They showed a lot of rhythm games, including Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, which is what they opened with. And I thought Summer in our Discord had some nice criticisms of this game, where she's talking about how this game, in addition to being a rhythm game, I guess it has some story elements. And I'm not a Kingdom Hearts player, but there's a female character who it's going to tell the story of, and they've kind of packaged that in with this rhythm game, and that's upsetting. I think we were kind of talking about like, oh, girls love pink, let's make this game pink or whatever, you know what I mean? And that it kind of has that feeling of like being, I don't know,
This is kind of relegated to the rhythm game.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
There were a lot of other rhythm games they opened with. And I think when we were watching this on the Discord, you were like, is this a rhythm game only showcase? It sure of felt like that. They showed Fuser and Taiko no Tatsujin.
How familiar are y'all with Fuser? Have y'all been following that game at all?
I'm familiar with it. I've heard about it, but
It's
Because
harmonics, right?
Harmonics, yeah. I've been following Harmonics, all the way back to Guitar Hero 1, which was my dorm room phase.
Yeah, I
And-
played Frequency for the
But
PS2.
Fuser's sort of a play on a board game that they had developed called Drop Mix.
I did not
Which
know
was
that.
a very, very innovative board game featuring playable cards. They had RFID tags on cards that you would lay down. It would have different instruments on them. And it was a really cool concept for a board game of musical instruments. But it was a great concept. It wasn't much of a game, though. And it feels like Fuser is taking that board game concept and melding it into sort of a more gameplay element. So this is something I'm actually really excited for, especially the streaming possibilities for it, to see what people
Well,
can do
if
on
you
Twitch
if
with
you don't
it.
get copyright takedowns from all the music in the
Well, if they could clear the tracks, that's gonna be a big thing. Yeah.
I haven't actually. I mean, that makes me more interested in it than this trailer did at all. It was really hard for me to kind of discern what the gameplay actually is, because I'm a huge Harmonix fan as well, and I've been with them, like I said, since Frequency. And so I have faith in them because I really like what they're doing with the music game genre, but I just couldn't. It just seemed like this was just playing different songs with no gameplay involved. So it's like,
And
so
that
I'm
was
trying
the
to
problem
figure
with
out.
Drop Mix. Yeah,
Right,
was
right,
the lack
right.
of gameplay.
Right. So we'll see how it goes, but Taiko no Tatsujin at least looked a little a little charming. The kind of RPG style of a rhythm game.
Yeah, and then we got Out of Rhythm Games. They showed off this World of Tanks is coming to the Switch, which I understand is like a free to play game where maybe pay to win at higher levels. Big Rumble Boxing, like where you play as Creed from the Rocky series, and then you can also play as Rocky and stuff. I guess this looked okay, but didn't look that great, right? I mean, or at least the visuals weren't super great. I don't know how y'all felt about it.
I forget who said this, but I heard somebody, I think online, say that that Big Rumble Boxing Creed Champions is they just took all of the like words that are related to boxing and like Rocky out of a hat and just mashed them all together in a string of consciousness title.
Totally. And then we got the like Final Fantasy Legends Game Boy game collection coming to the Switch, which I played those games as a kid, and I don't think I really want to replay them. No shame on people, or no shade thrown at people who do. I don't know that I feel like those games will have aged very well. They were kind of grindy and long, and yeah. And then I mean, it's just a straight port of the Game Boy game on your Switch too, so like that doesn't
with some really gross UI on the screen as well. It's like it makes it look like it's a touch game, but it's not even Game Boy buttons.
It looks like a mobile port, just put on the Switch screen.
Yeah, probably what it is.
Is this the first Game Boy, like direct Game Boy port that we have seen on the Switch?
No, there's Final Fantasy Legends before, like the second Densetsu one, right? Like with the Mana Collection.
Yeah, but I don't know what they did for the visuals of that. Did it look the same? That it's just
also within the Castlevania collection, there's Kid Dracula and like one of the other Game Boy Castlevania games.
Gotcha.
So they have been on the system up to this point, but only in collections so far.
And Just Dance 2021 got its first announcement here at this partner showcase. And then arguably one of the bigger things was Puyo Puyo Tetris 2, which doesn't have a lot of appeal to me. And I don't know, what this is going to do above and beyond the original one. But I know a lot of people, this might be one of the bigger things some people are excited about, maybe, from this.
I mean, this is definitely the game that I'm most excited in. It's the game that it looks the most fun to me, but it also just looks exactly like Puyo Puyo Tetris. I could see no difference between this and the first game.
Yeah, that's
so it just didn't seem like maybe there's more story, but that's not why I really played Puyo Puyo Tetris the first time around.
So. The lore in this is just yeah. There's some DLC for Minecraft Dungeons. Jump Force is coming to the Switch. The nominated best fighting game from last year. Captain Tsubasa, the arcade soccer game, which I looked kind of interesting. And then they did a little bit on Crystal Chronicles, the Final Fantasy game, which has come out now. So,
3 out of 10 for my GM.
Yeah, it's just not reviewing well.
Whoa.
Apparently it is not. Yeah, like I think even in our group DCD has been playing it, and he's not selling it either. He's kind of saying it's kind of a bummer.
We had a personal chat, me and DCD. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to play it. And then I watched a couple reviews and I'm like, I am not buying that.
Are the problems performance based, or?
I think that it's somewhat the online multiplayer is not very good, and it's not fun to play by yourself. So it's like, that sucks both.
It basically, the single player works fine, but then they totally bonked the multiplayer, and it just does like there's no progression with it. Whoever's hosting the online is the only person that gets progression. So if you play through the entire game with a friend, or like get to a certain point in the game with a friend, if you weren't hosting, you'll just be at the very beginning of the game still, and you'll have to redo all that stuff every single time, which totally killed my want or desire to play that game, since I would only ever really play it multiplayer, I suppose.
Totally. So that was more or less the Direct Mini Partner Showcase. I guess the only other little bit of news is they said there's going to be more of them, specifically of these Direct Mini Partner Showcases.
Great.
And like I said, we'll do more analysis on the big picture of this later. But it was generally not well received, and I felt a little bit disappointed by it as well. So What are you going to do?
It's interesting they didn't even give us like the 10 hours beforehand of announcing that it's going to come out this time. Maybe they were like, hey, this will hurt less if we tell people beforehand, but I don't know. It was awkward.
Gamescom 2020 happened, right? It's already over now, right? It ended this past weekend. It was over the weekend. So they had the opening night live, which had some game reveals and stuff. I watched some of this. I actually did not end up finishing it and just read about it because I got interrupted while watching it. But I know we were kind of watching it together. How did y'all feel about this presentation?
Yeah, it was nice to, at least I felt nostalgic for E3 generally. It's kind of how I felt, is like announcement, host, guest, exciting guest, announcement, new game. And it made me miss E3. Some of the announcements were just okay. Generally, I'm speaking generally about it. But
sure.
I just made me miss E3 and kind of that hype weekend.
And we have to talk, since Matt, you're talking now too, we have to talk about the Back to the Future moment. So Jeff Keighley is up there talking about, and coming off some other announcement, the Back to the Future theme music plays, and I record scratch. I turned the computer immediately to be like, Matt, are you checking this out? And then Christopher Lloyd comes on, and it's not a Back to the Future game. Right?
No, it's Surgeon Simulator 2.
The game they play in the movie.
Yeah.
That was a real weird what the fuck moment.
This isn't the first time Keeley's done this either, because he also brought like the Muppets on, and he brought like Alf on, and for no reason other. I think they're just trying to get 80s nostalgia.
Yeah,
they're trying to do exactly what they did to you, Patrick, which is where you have it on in the background, you're doing something,
it worked.
And all of a sudden you hear Doc Brown, you're like, you turn and look, and then now you are aware that Surgeon Simulator 2 exists.
Yeah, I am aware, and I am also aware of how awesome it would be if there was a really new, cool Back to the Future game, but there is not.
Yeah.
Or even just a re-release of the Telltale one?
The Telltale games, yeah.
Felt weird because they had the music, and then they had the fire tire tracks, and then they had Christopher Lloyd playing Doc Brown, and Christopher Lloyd is in his Doc Brown get up with this bright yellow shirt with a bunch of trains on it, and I'm like,
motherfucker said Great Scott.
Yeah, he says Great Scott. I was like, this is leading up so much to a Back to the Future game in some capacity. Could be anything. Surprise.
Yeah,
it's not.
The whole thing was kind of a bust, I think, for me. I think the only things that really stood out were Ratchet and Clank and Fall Guys DLC, and I'm not even really that excited about either of those. So we'll see. It's like we said, and like we'll get into, it's a tough year.
Yeah.
They said up top it's mostly stuff we already knew about, not a lot of new exclusive reveals or anything. So
yeah. And it's come out in the last week that Nintendo is apparently Japan's most cash-rich company this year, as of right now. So, when we talk about what's going on with Nintendo, well, they're just rolling around in cash. So that might help explain why they're not doing anything right now.
It explains how Nintendo's able to bankroll this entire podcast. That's not true.
Also, this week's it was discovered that Nintendo has an FCC filing, which is fueling the Switch Pro or upgraded Switch rumors and speculation. I have glanced at a little bit of this. I know, Matthew, you posted some link to the FCC filing. What is the alleged? It's like a memory upgrade. Is that correct? That we think might be happening.
More memory was the big shift there. That's what you were saying too, right, David?
I mean, I was saying that's what they would really need. I think for a suitable, cheap upgrade to the Switch. In fact, previous guest on the show, MVG, had a great video about this. He has a modded Switch as well, where he'll unclock basically the CPU and GPU and allow it to use a lot of the memory that's being used by the OS. And then you'll often get a lot better performance out of games. You'll get better frame rates. Oftentimes you'll even get better resolutions because games are made on this adaptive resolution that kind of goes up and down as it's being taxed by the hardware more. So like basically unclocking and having more memory that the games could actually use would just make games run a lot smoother. So that might be kind of how they're doing an upgrade. And I think that would be a pretty suitable way to do it pretty easily and cheaply. Dodo, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the scuttlebutt is that the next Switch is going to be this 4K monster Switch, and I just don't think that's Nintendo's, modus operandi. I think they're going to be looking for the new Switch, same way that they'd be looking at the new 3DS, a slight refresh, a slight upgrade, something that they could sell at the same price or maybe even cheaper, that will do a slight improvement on existing titles and not lock out new titles for old systems. So I don't see them really rocking the boat with a refresh, but maybe a nice little feature here, a nice little feature there, but nothing too crazy at this point because the install base is so large. Why fragment it?
Totally.
Yeah. I don't. If they are going to go 4K, which I don't think they even really could, I think it would be in the next generation of Nintendo console, right? The next iteration. But yeah, this definitely would be. I think the max upgrade you'll see with this is maybe a 1080p screen.
At portable, yeah,
in portable, right? And some better RAM and maybe more internal storage. But I think that would be the max of what you would see.
I also think one important information that's not listed here is that in the FCC filing, because there's no change in kind of the radio frequency architecture, FCC doesn't have to review it again. It's the same RF characteristics. So I think we might not get Bluetooth on this model, whatever it might be.
Fun. Can't wait to see what the fan base has to say about that.
Yeah, well, that makes me wonder, real quick poll, if Dodo is right and this is just a very minor upgrade, for memory and that kind of thing, would y'all bite?
I think this would be the one that got me to do it. Yeah, because I didn't spring for the V2 when it came out, and I didn't get a light for myself. So it's my Switch is getting a little old, and if it had better memory, I would, I've gotten 3 solid years out of my Switch right now. It's starting to see some wear and tear. I've got some fresh new Joy-Cons from Nintendo. I forgot to mention that up top.
Oh yeah.
So it's I would probably get a new Switch next year at some point if it came out.
I think if they decide that, I just said they're not going to fragment the game base, but what if here's my speculation, if they decide that some sort of virtual console, say they're only going to do Nintendo 64 games are available on these new model Switches.
Yuck.
If that's some sort of killer app feature that's only available on new models, then that might get me to bite and upgrade.
But not otherwise.
That would be something that would appeal to me. But other than that, no, I'm sticking with my launch day Switch.
Yeah, other than hardware incentives, I would need some software incentive to buy this new hardware. If that was, a higher dock resolution or handheld resolution, I might do it for that. For a specific game like Breath of the Wild 2 or even Smash, if it was retrofitted in that way.
Fair enough. That's 0 for 3.
I'm getting it.
Oh, sorry, David. You said you would do it. That's right. It's 1 for 3. But one thing too that makes me wonder, and we should move on. But what if they make new Joy-Cons with no drift or better sticks or something? That might be.
When can I pre-order?
I probably won't get those, like I said, because I just got new Joy-Cons.
You're good for a while.
But then I also got those third-party Joy-Cons too. So I've got more ergonomic Joy-Cons and real Joy-Cons. And I've got 3 pairs of Joy-Cons. I don't need a 4th pair of Joy-Cons. Yeah. I'm not about to play 8-player Smash with just Joy-Cons.
Dodo, you were saying that you would pre-order it?
Oh, if we had brand new redesigned Joy-Cons that would never drift, pre-order, day one pre-order. Never have to worry about that again, day one.
We'll see if the ones I got back from Nintendo start drifting again. Then yeah, maybe
I hate to curse you.
I'll get cucked into buying some new Joy-Cons.
Yeah. I hate to curse you, but I feel like they will eventually. It might take a year or two, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Moving on then. This probably means nothing, but Hideki Kamiya over at Platinum Games put out a tweet that said Astral Chain 2. I think it was we're right around the year anniversary of that game, the first Astral Chain coming out. And that game did pretty well, so it may well get a sequel, but he's probably just screwing with us, as he is known to do on Twitter. But do y'all take this as meaning anything, or did you guys see this? Have any thoughts on his tweet?
I think he's going to see how many likes he gets, then take it to his boss and see if he can get a greenlit.
Yeah, I think there's something to that too, right?
Yeah, I don't doubt that they'll make another one. It was a success for them the first time around. It exceeded their expectations as far as sales are concerned. It wasn't like a smash hit Animal Crossing sort of thing,
right?
But it did well enough for their budget and what they were trying to sell. And now that they're kind of loaded up on 10-cent money, I imagine that we'll see another sequel.
Fair enough. While we are waiting to hear what the price of the PlayStation 5 will be, maybe we got a little bit of insight into the backwards compatibility, because on an Ubisoft support webpage, somebody tracked down for upgrading from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 question, where they say that it no longer says this anymore, but it originally said in this question that PlayStation 5 only supports PlayStation 4 games, essentially meaning that, it won't be backwards compatible to PlayStation 1 through 3, which is a bit of a bummer if that's true. And also, it's not confirmation, but it's a pretty big company saying it, so it might well be confirmation. Who knows who wrote that, and if they knew anything? Probably not. I don't know. What do y'all think? Do you think that means just some random FAQ writer was trying to guess at things or something? Or
what it's saying is that PS5 will not be backwards compatible for anything other than PS4, right?
Right, but we think
that's what this FAQ is.
We think the Xbox will be, correct?
Yeah, the Xbox will be. The Xbox One is, and it said it'll be compatible with everything with Xbox One. Yeah.
So
I think this is internal messaging becoming accidentally external. Yeah. I think this is a case of a slip up. I think this has been Sony's just sort of standard messaging that they're not really keen on being all that backwards compatible. That's what PS3 is for.
PS5 isn't even going to be fully backwards compatible with PS4. They said that most of the PS4 games will work upon launch. So it's and the PS3 has been notoriously difficult to emulate and to get to run right. It was made on an entirely different architecture than all of their other systems. So I would say they're going to be yes, these games are playable through PlayStation Now, and they'll try to get you to do their streaming service, and that's how they're going to play it. And I think they just don't care. I think that they'll do fine without it. Xbox can afford to do it. They need as many things in their back catalog as they can get, and there are less exclusive games for the Xbox line of systems. So I think that it's easier for them to do that software emulation. So yeah, I would not be surprised if this is true. I don't know if Ubisoft is necessarily the people we want to be listening to on this, but I think it's
or on anything true. Right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Or on anything.
Yeah. Shit's going down at Ubisoft. Also 8BitDo or 8BitDo, however you prefer to say it. I will be happy to say it either way. They've got a new arcade stick for the Switch that looks pretty cool. I hadn't seen much about this, but I know y'all had, and we were talking about it in the Discord, kind of reminiscent of the old NES Advantage stick. That I think Cena said that. Are y'all?
Yeah, it reminds me of the Teenage Engineering OP1 mixed with the NES Advantage stick. It's a very nice looking piece of tech. Anytime 8BitDo releases something, I get really excited because it just looks really nice.
Are any of y'all clamoring for a nice new fight stick? Will anybody buy this, or are we just looking at it and thinking it's pretty?
It is very pretty.
I just spent $100 retrofitting my Arcade 1-Up modded cabinet. So no, if I had not just done that, maybe. But I don't think I could convince the missus to make that investment. But if that was not the case, then yes, because it looks like a solid piece of kit. What's really great, if you actually look into the specs on it, it's completely customizable. You can open it up, change out all the buttons, change out the sticks. The software that's designed for it is actually really customizable as well. So it looks like a really well engineered pice of hardware. So
Yeah, it's
they're
excited
getting
for other
better and
people to
better.
play.
It's not just Switch, it's also PC. It'll work on both.
Yeah.
And it does something really neat to where it shows the buttons, like the text for the buttons. So when you switch between Switch and a PC, it changes from like right button to ZR or ZL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got like a little screen behind it. Yeah, it's just really nice.
Well, then our last bit of quote unquote news, if you will, is going to lead us into our conversation. Is another little thing that maybe we'll expand on more in our conversation about what's going on with Nintendo in 2020. But there has been some rumors going around that this alleged Mario 3D game collection of Galaxy, Sunshine, and Mario 64 is going to be revealed very soon. In fact, some people were saying this week. So if that happens, we'll see. And then also, there was a tweet by one of the guys that's like the PR firm for Nintendo of America today, yesterday rather, the day before we recorded this, where he put a big picture of Mario, and it may mean nothing because that guy just has like his profile pictures with Mario and stuff, like he's the Nintendo of America advertising guy. But people are reading into it, and we've talked a lot about Nate from Nate the Hate and his kind of predictions, and he's kind of talked about what the lay of the land with that is. It was supposed to come out earlier, but now it might come out this holiday and be a holiday game. So,
right, yeah. So there was a Video Game Chronicles article recently that basically said that the game was probably slated to come out in September with the actual 35th anniversary, but has been kind of pushed back to be like a holiday tentpole title.
Yeah.
Right. Because of a lot of their other games are being delayed. All of this kind of stuff we'll be talking about in the in our topic here.
Yeah. I think we're going to expound on that a lot more in our main topic. So maybe it's time to go ahead and take a break, and we'll talk all about what the fuck is going on with Nintendo announcements and directs and all that kind of stuff in this weird year. And we'll get into all that when we come back. So this week we are talking about what the fuck is going on with Nintendo in 2020. Obviously, we know that the world is, dealing with a pandemic. And so Nintendo, like many companies, especially in the video game industry, is dealing with delays and all that kind of stuff. But the messaging we've been getting has been really weird. The way that they've made their announcements has been strange with these Twitter directs, or these sort of Twitter drops, and then these Nintendo Direct Mini partner showcases, and one Nintendo Mini Direct back in April or March or whenever it was. So yeah, we're just going to kind of dig into all that and whether some of these rumors are real and what can we expect for the rest of the year, that kind of stuff. So I thought it'd be fun to start to talk with these Direct Mini partner showcases. And that is a shitty mouthful. I don't like it. But
you don't like the NDMPSs?
The indie?
Come on, it just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, the NDMPSs.
Oh, I just woke up to another NDMPS. Very nice.
Oh, yeah, it's
my day is made.
Clubhouse Games Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Classics Showcase.
It's
Worldwide.
Sounds like Princess Bride ROUSs or whatever.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like David, you said the first one we had a 10-hour notice ahead of it. The second one was Shadow Drop. They both were around 10 minutes. And we've been told there are going to be more, at least one more we could expect this year. So like, I have to ask, like, what is the point? That's what I kind of wonder. Like, what is the point of these? Because, and which gets into the question of like, what's the point of a regular direct? And I think that also answers kind of why they're disappointing. Like, you know, are they doing this out of contractual obligation with, you know, these companies? They said that they were going to be in a direct, and then they've decided that they're not going to do another direct this year, and this is their way to do that. But why split it up then? You know what I mean? Or like, and then like, I don't know. Y'all jump in at any time, but I feel like the purpose of a regular direct is, and the reason we all love them is these sort of exclusive announcements, right? And like things you can't expect, and big new first party games. And so when all we're getting is third party stuff, often not brand new announcements, that it kind of doesn't have the same effect. That's my take. What do y'all think? Somebody else talk.
I think you got to lead with contractual obligation. I think you got to think that there's contracts out there that state that this third-party game. Let me lead with the clearest example to me, which is WWE 2K Battlegrounds, which is a game that was seemingly created to cover the fact that they don't have a new WWE 2K game coming out this year. That seems to me like, you know, Nintendo and them agreed that we're going to promote this game with a trailer during this time frame with what we presume to be a Nintendo Direct. And when they didn't have a first-party game as the anchor to a Nintendo Direct like they normally would, I feel like, to me, a Nintendo Direct is Nintendo has a big first-party title. That is their anchor. That is their one more thing. Maybe they have a smaller first-party title that sort of kicks things off. Yeah. And in the middle, you sandwich a bunch of smaller third and second-party titles, just sort of build that hype and then throw in a few few indies. When you don't have that anchor, you sort of just want to dump these commitments and not waste your first-party announcements. Because if you tie Pikmin 3 with WWE 2K Battlegrounds, does that devalue Pikmin 3? I kind of think it does.
I think it more than devaluing Pikmin 3 would probably elevate WWE Battlegrounds. You know what I mean? Because I really do think it's like, I think that a lot of these like partner showcases, if they did have one first party game in them that got anything more than like a small niche community of people excited, which is all these games have really been aimed for, right? If they got anything that was a little bit more broad, it would elevate all the rest of them. I mean, think about any other directs that you've seen where it's like, you know, where they show Breath of the Wild 2 is in development at the end, and you've got that taste in your mouth, right? So then you're like, oh, that direct was great. And it just kind of makes you see everything with a little bit better of a light. Personally, that's kind of how I view it. I also kind of think that if these were contractual obligations where they're like, hey, we told you these would be in a direct, so we're going to put it in something that has direct in the title, even though it's not really a direct. I think that these were all games that were probably in sizzle reels that they broke out, you know what I mean? To like be in their own announcements. And it's like, I think for the companies that their contracts are being made true with this, like they're probably happy that they're getting more of a spotlight than if they were just in a sizzle reel. But then at the same time, it's kind of a double-edged sword because there's been this huge fan backlash against these partner showcases. And I think the problem is because it has direct in the title.
Yeah.
If it's like a catch-22, if these weren't called Nintendo Direct mini partner showcases and they were just Nintendo partner showcases and they just dropped out of nowhere, people would be like, oh, this is fun. But it's like there's that kind of prestige, you know, naming of the direct thing. People love to get hyped for it. It becomes this event. You know, but then if you don't call it that, then the companies are mad that they're not in a direct. Right. So I think Nintendo's kind of in a position where nobody wins. But maybe the solution is just fucking announce Mario 3D Collection. Nobody will care after that.
Matt, do you have any thoughts on sort of purpose of a direct and these many partner showcases?
I mean, I agree with David. The Nintendo Direct feels like a misnomer in the title. I mean, at the end of the day, it's also we're our own problem as, you know, consumers of expecting something, because all other big releases or social media posts or concerts or movies all lead up to a big tent pole attraction, a big release. And this feels so weird because it just has the same, no pun intended, the same rhythm, the really low rhythm of like no big game announcements. And that's why it feels weird, because there's nothing. It's like a really flat roller coaster. Roller coasters are really fun when you have a really big uphill climb and then a big drop. This is just a roller coaster, which is like a lazy river.
Yeah, it's just a flat roller coaster.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you said this, Michael, but like, a big opener and a big closer. And I think that's what a Nintendo Direct does well. And I think this most recent partner showcase was even more disappointing, because the first one, even though they weren't necessarily things that I was personally excited about, I could walk away thinking, oh, that was kind of unexpected Nintendo DLC for Cadence of Hyrule. And also, I know Shin Megami Tensei fans have been waiting for a long time, and that's kind of a big thing. And maybe neither of those things super speaks to me, but like that was, like they kind of still followed that formula. So this one, I was kind of expecting the same thing, right? Like some sort of opener that would be okay. And we got the Rhythm Kingdom Hearts game, and then thought, well, surely they'll close with like No More Heroes 3 or something, you know what I mean? Because where is that game, like, or
right.
Like, but they didn't, they just
there was a 4chan leak the other day saying that there's going to be another Nintendo Direct partner showcase that's like No More Heroes 3, Bayonetta 3, right. What was the other one?
Bravely Default
2. Yeah, it was like, all right, I was believing this 4chan leak until you said that there'd be all these great games in a Nintendo Direct partnership.
Yeah, it's weird because any of those games could have been here as a closer. And I think even if it was like now coming in, 2021 or something, maybe people would be disappointed. Maybe it's a smart move not to do that, but like, it's just weird. And I think it's like we want third party support on a Nintendo system, because that's always been a problem in the past. So it's weird to complain about this, right? But it's the messaging. I think that's the problem.
My theory is that Nintendo has a direct, like a regular direct ready to go. They're just sitting on it. But then every week that somebody's like, there's going to be a direct this week, and there's all this hype on the internet, Nintendo's like, all right, motherfuckers. And they just slide out one of these partner showcases instead, just to fuck with the fans that are leaking stuff. That's kind of how I see it. That's obviously a joke. But this does kind of, that is something that I've wondered, and something that I kind of wanted to ask you guys is like, Nintendo behaves like they are completely aloof to what is actually happening in the world of Nintendo fans.
Yeah.
Right. The Nintendo fandom, especially this year, as we've been getting very little content, has just become this crazy muck of leaks and conspiracy theory and speculation and all this different kind of garbage, and a lot of toxicity, and a lot of people like really getting anxious for shit and taking that out on people on Twitter. And it's like, how much of this do you think informs what Nintendo actually does? I mean, obviously that joke I was making aside.
Yeah.
Like, do you think they hold back on stuff? Do you think they're holding back on the Super Mario 3D collection because there was a Super Mario 64 PC port? Stuff like that. Like, how plugged in do you think Nintendo actually is?
I don't really believe that informs their decision making on a core fundamental level. I think that maybe they're aware of those things going on, but I just don't believe that Nintendo makes decisions based on the Twitterverse or on social media or on how or even the Giga Leak on how that all went about. I think that they just, for lack of a better term, think that they're above it. And I know that sounds callous, but I think they don't want to involve themselves in all of those minor controversies because they want to have a very consistent top level message and they don't want to engage with a day-to-day conversation on these things. And so they have a plan. It may be a year-long plan or a 2-year-long plan or whatever that plan is, but they want to execute those points. And when things get delayed because of COVID or something else, they'll just quietly, without telling anyone, push back those plans. Occasionally they'll let us know when those plans get pushed back, but sometimes they won't even let us know.
Yeah.
But they just go ahead, they move forward, and they do the things that they've decided they're going to do. And sometimes we're in the know, but a lot of times we're just not. And if sometimes we call that Nintendo magic, and sometimes we're frustrated the hell.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say that would be pretty consistent with the way that they treat the industry at large as kind of being above it. You know what I mean? It's like, people are always talking about, we talked about this in our console wars episode, but it's like, people are like, is Nintendo going to be able to beat like Sony and Microsoft in this generation? It's like Nintendo does not care about either of them, So I think that would be consistent.
In like to that point, David, console wars, we are in a year of new hardware that's coming out. And that's
supposedly
also,
right.
I guess so. What's the price? When's it going to come out? We say this
I'll
every
believe
week.
it when I fucking see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And because Nintendo is raking in the cash with Animal Crossing, they have the most cash from a video game developer in Japan's standpoint. Like, they don't have to do much in order to continue to make bank. And even if they announce delays, they're only losing face to their audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And losing potential money to Microsoft and Sony.
Yeah. I think back to the original question too of like, I agree. Like, I don't think Nintendo cares. But I mean, I think there is evidence that they are paying attention. They do listen to maybe small things or to things that click with them. Like, when the Mario Maker 2 first trailer opened with slopes, they're paying attention, right? Like to what people are saying about their games. But like Matt said, they're sitting on billions of dollars. Like they don't need to listen to the like you're talking about, Dodo, the daily Twitter bullshit. So I think they are listening, but they don't care. And also I think, like you said, they have a plan, and their plan is obviously changing. And people will forget about all this. We'll all forget once there's a really great Nintendo Direct, whether it's in, November or March. I
just know for the rest of my life, everything that happened in 2020 is going to be burned into my soul for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? This year has just been a fucking deluge.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
sorry.
Well, there are a few things that we've talked about that I want to get to. Maybe we can start with the toxicity element, because we were kind of talking about this as Nintendo paying attention. There were a lot of negative reactions to the partner showcases, both of them, but they went ahead and did the second one anyway.
And they've said they're doing more,
and I think they will. I don't think they're backing down now. And it's unfortunate that people are taking out all of their frustrations, online and in toxic ways. And that, maybe we can talk a minute about that. If you're out there listening, and, I can't imagine anybody that listens to our podcast is out there making those kinds of tweets and things, but like, I think that people are just taking out general frustration on this because this is a fun thing. You know what I mean? I think it's misdirected energy. I don't know how y'all feel about this. And then, well, go ahead.
It's not just directed at Nintendo either. You're getting it, the people that are the leakers that are like saying, hey, my sources are telling me there's going to be a direct this week. And then there is, it's just not the one that people want, but then there is. And then everybody takes it on them. And you've read from so many of these people online. They're like, why the fuck am I still doing this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I just get berated by a bunch of entitled Nintendo fans, like every time it's not exactly what they want. And I think you're starting to see a lot of people like speculate less this year because of that. I mean, the same kind of toxicity happened in the Star Wars fan base as well. Like as the sequels were coming out, it was like at the very beginning, like before the episode 7 came out, I felt like the Star Wars fan base was still like super legit. And then after that first movie came out, it was just like a downhill slope ever since. And maybe that's just the internet culture, right? And that's just kind of the way that things trend as they get popular. But yeah, you hate to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have an official opinion on Zack Snyder just as a matter of policy because of the way the internet is these days.
Right.
But yeah, it's tough. It's tough for leakers. Leave Hot Girl 69 alone is my official stance. Leave all these leakers alone.
She could probably stop poking the hornet's nest a little, but yes, I do agree. You should leave Hot Girl 69
and also
alone.
Nate from his podcast, he was like more assured than he should have been maybe in his last where he was like, it is gonna be a general direct. He basically said that, like, he's like, he kind of admitted he didn't know, but he was like, based on everything I'm hearing, it's definitely gonna be, you know, first party stuff.
He's done this in the past though. I mean, he was like certain that, you know, Game Pass was coming to Switch,
right?
You know what I mean? And that turned into a whole bunch of horse hockey. It was funny on that episode of his podcast where he was talking about it. Basically, he came out and he was kind of very apologetic.
Yeah, he
like,
was.
You know, sometimes you get it wrong and you really try to do the best you can, but sometimes it's wrong. And then MVG comes on and he's like, listen, there was a direct this week, so everybody shut up. And it was like, that's the response.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny apology and then sort of like walking it back a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that to be very humorous.
Yeah, so I think this will make leakers more hesitant to give us specifics, at least the ones that are out there that gave these specifics. But I also think that this is going to make people trust leaks less because I don't know if y'all have seen these rumors going around of Mario 3D collection getting announced. Every reaction is like, yeah, bullshit. You know what I mean? On the internet,
like the ones that are saying it's coming out this week, or it's being announced this week.
Like that's what they say every week. And there's been more of that sentiment. And I think this is good. This is what I want. Every time we talk about the ethics of leaks and stuff, I always talk about how I want there to be more Grinch leaks and stuff because it's like I want us to not know. And I want us to be second guessing things and not be sure about these things. It's more exciting that way. Though with the state of things right now, I am really ready for some kind of clarity. I don't know I think we all are. And that's where the frustration is, right?
You're a true libertarian, Patrick.
I'm just exhausted from all of the leaks. Yeah. And we got the Mario, whatever the 35th anniversary collection, Super Mario 3D All Stars, whatever it's going to be called. We learned about that in March. Mm-hmm. And every week, or maybe every day, or every other day, it's been like, it's coming out. It's coming out
soon. Yeah.
Soon.
Right.
Look at these new SKUs that are released on GameStop or Best Buy. They're definitely the Mario 35th anniversary. And I like getting hyped about leaks, but I think because this happens so much, I would rather not know or rather not have leaks so I can just be surprised at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's what I miss. I miss being surprised. We're in 2020.
Part of me secretly really, really wants the 3D collection to not be a thing.
Yeah.
And to have never been a thing. And it's like, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I want it. I clearly want it. And I want to play it right now. But it's like, I think that would be a very valuable lesson to all of us. You know what I mean? Like if that just for all year, we just believed in this thing and then it just ended up not being a thing.
Well, then what would you rather Nintendo release this holiday season?
A new game.
What would be the or?
I said it last episode, Pikmin 4. I think that's release the Pikmin cut. But no, obviously I'm joking there. But it's like, you're right. It is wacky, Matt, that this has been talked about since March, and we've heard literally nothing from Nintendo to even suggest that this is a real thing. You know what I mean? And yet it's like every single week we think it's coming this week.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know what that means about us as a community. I think it's not a good look.
But I think that makes me wonder too, right? Like this 3D collection, I think there is a lot of evidence for it. And that's why, like, the leaks for this came out saying there was going to be Pikmin 3 Deluxe this year, and that there was going to be a new Paper Mario game.
A new Paper
And then
Mario,
there's been
right.
all these weird Mario tie-ins for things that, I think that I think Nintendo was really fucked by having to not launch their theme park. And that this was all going to be a giant theme park tie-in that was going to happen right around now, with all this Mario merch coming out with the Lego sets and the Oreos and the Levi's and the whatever else, board games and stuff. And it would have just been this Mario explosion. And so now they're like, well, do we even want to do that? I would guess that they're like, is it worth waiting till we can tie these things in? I don't know. That's at least where I think it probably. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I never thought about that from that perspective. But if you're in Nintendo marketing and you're trying to, I'm watching Legend of Korra, and season 2, they talk about the harmonic convergence. When everything lines up perfectly.
Yeah.
When you're like, we're going to get the theme park, and then we're going to hit the fashion industry with Levi's, and then we're going to hit the junk food in the grocery stores, and it's going to be Oreos, and then it's going to be a video game. And it's going to, Mario's going to be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in marketing, you're just like, yeah, of course. It's just a great move to just take over everyone's attention that's working at home to have, this is a celebration of Mario. And it's coming from all different fronts. It's not just a video game, but it's also theme parks and, fashion and movies and probably TV shows and commercials and everything.
Yeah, and marketing blitzes like that made sense before the fall of man, right? That stuff made sense. But then I can see the problem with a marketing blitz like that, where everything is kind of building on each other, is if you take one crucial bit out, the whole Jenga tower kind of falls out.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, no, another big part that I want to mention, I was in Japan end of December, early January, and one of the big things that was leading up was Olympics.
Yeah.
Was going to be summer. And so you want to talk about Japan as a country was gearing up for all of 2020, and that year of Mario fitting into the Olympics and all of that. I mean, that whole 2020 schedule for all of Japan just got
That's true.
Mm-hmm. So let's complain about it more on Twitter.
Well, so everything got screwed up. And so COVID-19, obviously the worst thing about this is that people are dying and that kind of stuff. But we're these, lots of games are getting delayed. This isn't just Nintendo, right? We've talked about this, PlayStation, Xbox. We don't know how much they're going to cost. They're coming out in 2.5 months, allegedly. So it's not just them, but it does feel like their communication style has been really weird this year. And maybe it's because it's so different than their previous ones, with the major games getting these Twitter or just, random announcements, and that being Paper Mario and why can't I think of it now? Pikmin 3, but
we heard it from the horse's mouth earlier in the year, and it's something that I think a lot of people forget about. But Furukawa said at the investor meeting that the directs have worked well for us, but we're looking at potential other means of releasing information. And I don't think that anybody thought that meant this year is not going to have any major directs, but that's seemingly what this is. What this means, what that means, as far as I can understand, is we're announcing our first party games on Twitter, and then everything else we're shoving into these little piecemeal third party directs. That's kind of how I'm viewing what I would say you can expect for the rest of the year. At this point, I don't know that we will get a big direct this year, or maybe ever again. But it's I think certainly not this year. I don't think that we will see that at this point.
David, I have to ask you, what has happened to your hope?
Oh, it died in the last couple weeks. Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
I think you cannot understate the difficulties that Japanese studios have transitioning to work from home, as opposed to US and even European studios. Like Japanese studios, a lot of these developers do not have the home office equipment that, say, we're looking at all of our home studios, and like my ability to work from home is absolute.
Yeah.
I can get more work done in my home office than I necessarily can at my workplace. But there's a lot of these Japanese studios who had to bring in equipment into their employees' homes in order to get them back up and running. And so I think they're working at a deficit in terms of making that transition. You saw, what was it, that Smash presentation where they had to bring in cameras and bring in all that equipment just to do the reveal of one DLC fighter. So imagine trying to put together a trailer or continue development on a project. I could only imagine, was the Mario 35th anniversary collection complete? Is it still being developed? Is that port work still being done? Is the fact that it's being delayed because they're not finished with it yet?
Tying into that too seems to be that Nintendo really, really doesn't want to announce something when it's not ready. Like with Paper Mario and Pikmin both being announced 6 to 8-ish weeks ahead. Like that's a small amount of time to have a large scale marketing campaign. It works fine. I'm sure those games are both going to sell maybe better than any other games in those series because of the install base and the hype and the situation.
I think Nintendo kind of realized a little late, but they've definitely realized it now, that it's not the marketing world of like the 90s and early 2000s anymore, where you would have something revealed in a Nintendo Power or an Electronic Gaming Monthly or an EGM, and then the only really way you would know about it is through trade publications or whatever. And then that would like stew for a while, and you would have to announce stuff early because, now it's like the information is so instantaneous that the amount of time dilation has changed, right? It feels like the same amount of time you're waiting. Just every day of the internet is like, a week of print time. You know what I mean? And so I think they only caught on to that recently though. And I think, they just had their own magazine that they did stuff with for so long that I think they were kind of in that mindset. And I think Metroid Prime 4 having to get totally delayed, restarted over again, kind of snapped them out of it. They're like, there's no reason we need to do this anymore.
What do y'all think about this idea too, that maybe 2020 was already going to be a pretty light year for Switch first party games, and so part of the reason this feels so bare is because whatever 1 or 2 games that we haven't gotten or haven't heard about had to get delayed. You know what I mean? That we were already looking at
butter over too much toast.
Yeah, exactly. That probably this was going to be a light year, and maybe they're gearing up for a bigger 2021 with new hardware or something. You know what I mean? With and Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever.
I actually have a theory on that I kind of came up with when we were talking earlier, but I think that, and this kind of, again, goes to some of that 4chan leak that I was looking at, that, again, I don't think it's necessarily true, but I think it had the right idea. And a lot of that was saying that, Pikmin was originally supposed to be out in September, but they're pushing it to October 30th, when that was originally when Super Mario 3D World was supposed to come out, and they're pushing that to January. You know what I mean? And Mario 3D All-Stars is probably supposed to be out in September. That's going to now be their holiday title, right? So I think what's happening here is that, and this is what we've heard in other parts of the industry as well, is that, this has been a weird as fuck year for gaming with COVID, and a lot of stuff has been delayed, but we're going to see even more delays next year. Because a lot of the games that are now being forced to work from home are games that you're really going to start to see the effects next year, and they're going to have to work even more on it next year. And I think Nintendo, that probably hits them even more. So I think what they probably had a big holiday game that they have not announced yet, that nobody knows about, that they were planning to announce in the summer, that is now going to be coming out sometime next year to make up for whatever drought is inevitably going to come because of all their games development cycles. Yeah. So I think that a lot of the stuff we were going to see this year has just been pushed out so that next year doesn't feel like Drought 2.0. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys see any merit in that.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I agree that Nintendo can make those kind of decisions, not only because they're forced to, but because of Animal Crossing's success.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it gave them money, and it literally, bought them time.
Yeah.
They now have more money and now have more time due to COVID. And they can do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we should wrap up pretty soon, but talking about Animal Crossing and Smash as well makes me wonder, like, why haven't we heard about the fall update in Animal Crossing? Why haven't we heard about the next Smash Fighter? Do you think maybe some of that, like at least maybe the Smash Fighter tied into this Mario plan, and maybe they were going to show some of this stuff in a direct? Do we expect that kind of stuff to just come out randomly? Like we'll get a Sakurai Presents the new character sometime in the next month or two, and we'll get just like a random Animal Crossing fall update video and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at too. Yeah.
Though I think we'll get them in their own little presentations.
Yeah.
I think we'll get a little presentation from Sakurai about Smash. I think we'll get a little Twitter. We'll get like a 4-minute Twitter video about the Animal Crossing update, and that'll be kind of how we get that information. And in another world, these would be bundled with directs,
right.
But I don't think that is this world. Yeah.
It'll be Nintendo Direct Mini Super Smash Brothers Ultimate Character Showcase
Royale.
Yeah. And Knuckles.
Well, I think that, I agree. I don't think we're getting another big direct until sometime next year. I think that maybe we'll get one new game announcement, probably this Mario 3D collection, and then like you said, those little things for these other DLC things, and that's it. So
this is really going to be the year without a general direct.
Yeah.
Then there will have been no general direct this year because you can't count the mini. You just can't. It's a mini. It was great. It was a fine mini. But it's like, this will be the year, the dark year.
Any other anything on this y'all want to say to take us home?
Michael?
It will be a year without Santa.
I think, yeah. I would just say, like, we all obviously need to chill. And I think that this episode of this podcast probably isn't helping. Because it's kind of like we're throwing a fit right now. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But it's also, God damn it, this is a Nintendo podcast and we need something to talk about. So it's good to talk out this stuff,
yeah,
right? And get more realistic expectations. And you have to maybe take a little bit of solace in that, as much as like the fans are freaking out right now, I bet like Nintendo, people are freaking out at Nintendo too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm sure they've got a plan. Like you were saying, Dodo, they've got a plan, right? But it's like, I'm sure that plan is changing every day.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, no matter what they're doing, it's probably chaos over there. And it's like, that's just the world and it sucks. But we just kind of have to be ready for it and just stock up on canned goods and guns and try to live our lives as best as we can.
I definitely think, David, if this is what you're alluding to, that we're the problem is because, yeah. Us as a podcast host, but also us as a people, because I'm just online way more. I'm ready to consume the news and I'm ready to consume all of the Nintendo leaks, just because I'm on my computer more. When, in 2019, it was way different, but because I'm like, I need it and want it, growing up a little bit, I would want pancakes every weekend for my dad. And my dad was like, you can't have pancakes every week, and that's bad for you. You can't do it. And I want Nintendo news every weekend, but that might be bad for me too. I don't know if that metaphor fits.
You can only fly a plane into too many houses.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Well, I think that does it then, in the grand scheme of the world, with, people dying and racial justice protests, Nintendo news is not that important, but maybe that helps us put it in perspective too.
But alas, this is the podcast we decided to start.
We're all in this together, and we're going to make it through. Come over to David's house. His address is.
That's right. I'm ready to be the next COVID hotspot, baby. Super spreader. Hashtag.
All right, we're being too silly. We should move on. Good talk. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about all the video games that we have been playing recently. This past week, I think the really only new thing I'm going to report is that my son and I played through new Super Lucky's Tale again. In our furious, we have like just kind of like you're talking about, Matt. We're online all the time. He finishes his virtual kindergarten, and then we're like, "What are we gonna do? We're gonna play a video game." So we just are cleaning up, and he wants to replay these games, and so we're just beating these games super fast. New Super Lucky's Tale, I talked about on the podcast a long time ago. It's a really decent platformer. Lots of varied different platformer stages. We cruised through it, and this time around he wants to do the post game stuff, which is actually decently challenging, and we didn't really mess around with that too much last time. So I'm kind of enjoying doing the post game challenges, and so yeah, that's mostly what I've been playing.
I haven't played Super Lucky's Tale.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I think if you like platformers, it's got a nice.
I do.
It's got a nice mix of 3D, 2D. Runner, like endless runner style. Like every level is a little bit different. There's some puzzle stuff. It's on the easier side, and like other than if you wanted to like 100% it, which it, you know, like a lot of platformers, that's where the challenge is. It's a little kiddie, but it's really nice playing with my kid because he's getting better at games, and this is the kind of like watching him play this was kind of interesting because my wife came in one time and he was doing a little thing and she's like, holy shit, he's gotten a lot better at games. And I'm like, wow. I know, it's kind of scary.
You just cuss in front of your kid like that?
She may not have said it that word. But yeah, I don't know. It's not like I can't say like, oh, you have to play this. If you know what I mean? Like, cause it's not like, oh my God, it revolutionized anything or whatever. It's a bright, fun platformer. So it's not, I don't know if that really sells anybody on it.
Made right here in Texas.
It's also got a shit ton of lore. You know what I mean? Like it's really weird because like you're playing this game and it's like all the little like tips are like, the Guardians they're wear their sigils and, like why, they spend a lot of time thinking up the background of this game.
Hell yeah. I'll go next. As I alluded to in the episode, I did get 4 fresh, brand new Joy-Cons back from Nintendo. I had to harass them over the phone about why it had taken so long. They admitted to me that they had, for some reason, put it on some sort of administrative hold. No one could understand why. So I think they felt bad, and instead of repairing them, just sent me brand new ones, which I think happens to a lot of people who request new stuff. But my Switch is feeling really nice and tight, and the Joy-Cons aren't shaky. Ooh. You know what I mean anymore? So I've been playing a lot in handheld mode. I have been playing a ton more Crosscode. I fucking love Crosscode. I think Crosscode might be one of the best games I've ever played. I'm not even that far. I'm only like, I'm about 14 hours into the game right now, but everything about it feels so good to play. The platforming is really tight. The action's really tight. The puzzles are really tight. I just recently beat, the first like major temple in the game. And it was super long and really satisfying with a really difficult boss at the end that I died to multiple times. But then I eventually I was learning every time I was fighting the boss. You know what I mean? It never feels cheap when you die. It like really rewards you for playing well. And I just love grinding so much in this game. I hate grinding in RPGs normally, but this game makes it so fun that I'm actually like kind of worried that I'm a little overpowered for where I'm supposed to be in the story at this point. Just because I find myself getting into the flow of like fighting these enemies as they come in. So yeah, still really recommend Crosscode if you haven't played that yet. What's wrong with you? And then the other game, I've been playing some little things here and there. I've been picking up some Picross and played some Clubhouse games with my dad. We played backgammon late at night sometimes. But the other game I picked up this week is Moon, a Japanese RPG that never got localized in the West. It was a PlayStation game. And something that's cited as one of the it's kind of this and Earthbound were kind of the two main inspirations for Undertale. And it's kind of an anti-RPG. The game starts where you are a kid playing like a classic JRPG on his TV, and you like get a good way through the game like on the TV, and then your mom is like, "It's time to go to bed. Put that game down," or whatever. And then you get like sucked inside the game. And then you kind of, once you're inside the game, you kind of realize the hero that you play as is kind of a dick and just murders people all the time. And so the game like really teaches you to like play with love and caring. And that's how you kind of like beat all the enemies in the game, is through compassion. So it's a very interesting game. If it sounds like Undertale, obviously that's why it's one of the main inspirations for it. I got a little frustrated because I got a game over in some bullshit way and it sent me back like really far. So I haven't picked it up since then. So I'll probably beat Crosscode and then pick this game up. I've been doing a little bit better at beating games recently. But it's very strange, very quirky, very unique art style, major Super Mario RPG vibes to the art style and the kind of weird isometric faux 3D look of it. I definitely recommend it. It's quirky and bizarre, but worth checking out if you have any kind of interest in that whatsoever.
Cool.
I will go next. As I said at the top of the episode, I've been playing Microsoft Flight Simulator and crashing a whole lot. David, I have to thank you for this because you gave me the idea, the inspiration, which were like, hey, go to my house, crash into my house and take a picture of it and send it to me. And that's what I did. And I put it on Instagram of like, now I'm taking personal requests for me to crash into your house. And I was very surprised how many people wanted me to crash into their house, and I did. I satisfied. Customer satisfaction is my guarantee. And I had like a backlog of 15 people who were
You still need to crash into their houses?
I still need to crash into their houses. So, you can't. The funny thing about it is, like in Flight Simulator, you can't just put in an address. So showing you behind the curtain a little bit is I can't just put in the address and it takes me there. I have to go to the city, look from a top-down perspective of where I am in this city, and compare it to like a Google Maps satellite view to figure out where I'm at.
You're like real-time flight traffic controlling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And figure out which house it is. And in the suburbs, suburbs are shitty on Flight Simulator. But it's been really fun for me because it kind of something that I like about myself, which is like I'm trolling people, but it's also a sincere gift that I'm giving someone.
That's nice.
That's kind of like a fun balance for me. That's been a really nice weekend project. So if you want me to crash into your house, I just need your home address and I'll do it.
I am totally giving you my address when we go off the air.
Please do.
Give him the address of the theater as well.
I'd love to. Amanda Bird, part of the Switch Headz community, wanted me to crash into a Joe's Crab Shack. And I was like, okay.
Did you find it?
Yeah, I found it.
Nice.
Yeah. I crashed into that shit.
There is no building this man will not crash a plane into.
No. I'll do it
Total
100%.
derangement.
I put a skin on the 747. I am now I'm in the Air Force One all the time. So if you want me to act like the president crashing into stuff, just like he does.
Broom, broom. I learned how to fly a plane.
Dodo, how about you? What have you been playing?
I have been tearing through the Yakuza franchise over the last week or so. Started with Yakuza 0 just about 2 months ago, and then the last week went through the first two Yakuza remakes, Yakuza Kiwami and Kiwami 2, and then was playing Yakuza 3 just prior to this episode. In fact, lead character, no spoilers, was dying in my arms as I got the message that we were going to start recording this. So had to almost wipe away some tears before I put my headset on.
Well, I appreciate your forced sunny disposition for this podcast.
It was tugging at the heartstrings, but I've been going through those games. a little bit of Wasteland 3, which just dropped on Game Pass. And then checking out Spiritfarer. Am I getting the name right now?
Oh, you are. And I've been playing some of that too.
Yeah, been playing that, which just been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic game, both in just art style as well as a very chill take on a genre not known for being chill. And so I really, really appreciate that.
What genre would you say that is?
Crafting,
Right.
I guess it's sort of, I mean,
Resource management.
There's a bit of Minecraft in there,
Right.
but it's in a way where you go at your own pace. You don't feel necessarily pushed to keep going. You
Cool.
can stop and start whenever you feel.
Yeah, it's got that sort of Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing feel to it too, but definitely more than Stardew Valley. Like you kind of can go at your own pace, or in my experience with those games. I have been playing that as well. I forgot about that.
And then you were saying, I think maybe before the show, you'd modded an arcade 1-up machine. What do you have on that?
Yeah.
Is it just kind of a MAME cabinet at this point?
Yeah, exactly. It's a Raspberry Pi 4 attached to the back of an arcade 1-up. That's rocking. I also have an 8BitDo gamepad connected to that. So that is running Dreamcast and down. So that's running
Awesome.
Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, MAME, Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Mostly right now I've been playing NBA Jam. That has really become an NBA Jam.
It's on
machine.
fire.
Is that what arcade 1-up it was? Or which
No,
model
it's
is it?
started life as a Street Fighter 2 cabinet.
Gotcha.
You playing a vanilla NBA Jam or a tournament edition? Talk to me.
You gotta start with Tournament Edition.
I like how you responded.
Very good.
Well, I think then that does it for the episode. Thanks so much, Michael Domangue. Thanks for coming on to talk to us about this crazy year of Nintendo announcements.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. It was great to be here with y'all.
Awesome. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. Sorry to Chris McKeever. We have not played Disney's Tsum Tsum Festival.
Unless...
If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, I am PDYX.
You can find me on Twitter, Matthew, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Mikey Dodo? Where can people find you?
You can catch me at Twitter and Instagram at mdomangue.
And if people are in New Orleans and COVID's dying down and it's safe to go to movie theaters, where can they find your movie theater?
25% capacity. We are running live at The Broad Theater, thebroadtheater.com. Tickets available now for Tenet.
Nice.
Very good. You guys getting Mulan, or is that just going straight to VOD?
Disney Plus is your ticket.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. All about WTF is going on at Nintendo in 2020. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We are at Switch Headz on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, what a blast. What a savings. What a crazy year. This is going to be an even crazier year going forward, so let's all stick with it together. We really appreciate you guys listening to the show. We got a great show for you next week, so make sure you tune into that. Other than that, folks, stay safe out there. Continue to wash your hands. Continue to wear a mask. We love you very much. R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.